I've been eating insects for years, but what I see as a tasty snack could be seen as disgusting by someone else. But what's the psychological reason for that? Let's dig in. Disgust is actually a defense mechanism that evolved to keep us safe from all kinds of diseases. Josh Ackerman, a social psychologist at the University of Michigan, told me that
we have a whole host of ways, of psychological ways of dealing with those infections, all the emotions and thoughts and ways of managing our environment.
Those safety strategies make up our behavioral immune system. Think of it as a set of behaviors that work to prevent infection. For instance, the more likely people were to feel disgust from certain foods, the more they tended to stick with certain COVID prevention strategies, like social distancing and hand washing, according to this 2021 study. A similar study found that during the pandemic, people became more sensitive to disgust-provoking stimuli, like someone sneezing next to you in the elevator, or even vanilla ice cream with ketchup on it. That suggests an increased awareness of potential dangers. So back to those insects I was snacking on earlier. Despite their high protein content, edible insects usually get a bad rep for being dirty. And that can be scary because filth can lead to disease.
So if you have a motivation to avoid disease, avoid contamination, like with foods, it's really to experience this kind of withdrawal, like getting back, moving away, maybe even like spitting something out, getting away from that food.
Another indicator that sets off our behavioral immune system is how something looks. Just like this beastly brown avocado looks like it should be thrown out. Sounds superficial, but our behavioral immune system relies a lot on our sense of sight. And when foods don't look like we expect them to,
then we tend to be a little bit more cautious about eating those things. And especially if we see things like discoloration on food.
Scent is another powerful cue the behavioral immune system uses to protect us. Did you notice how I curled my lips and moved away when I saw the discolored flesh?
That might prevent unpleasant smells from entering the nose.
Foods that are rotting usually smell bad, like milk or meat past their prime. And that alerts our brains that we shouldn't consume them. Our taste and smell systems connect up to the limbic area of the brain, which is involved in processing our responses to threats. One key region is the hypothalamus, which controls our fight or flight response. The limbic system is also important for controlling the emotional responses that help us determine whether we like certain foods or are grossed out by them. This gut feeling is critical, especially when we haven't encountered something before. Like me, with this durian. It's a spike-covered tropical fruit whose strong smell sends some people running. Yes! It looks like a dinosaur egg. Okay, I don't think that's for me. It tastes like something that's fermented and gone bad. Just like people might not like insects, I didn't like this. We often forget this, but the brain is a prediction machine. That means it's constantly scanning the environment with all of our senses to predict potential outcomes. But if the brain doesn't have prior good outcomes to refer back to, it tends to default to safety.
So people are much more averse to foods that come from other cultures if they haven't experienced those in the past, even if those foods don't show any signs of contamination.
When something deviates from normal or is unfamiliar, the brain alerts us that something might not be quite right. Think of when you walked on a transparent platform and looked down, or the first time you walked into a crowded train after COVID lockdowns. That apprehension you felt, that's your brain trying to keep you alive and well. It's a similar phenomenon with food.
It also could be that those foods have bacteria that you haven't been exposed to and that you can't handle very well. And so those foods may, in fact, be more likely to make you sick.
But like your brain, your gut is adaptive. Your digestive and nervous systems learn to cope with new challenges. And that's a good thing, because a lot of foods we might instinctively avoid can be good for us. So what might help us get over our initial aversions? Josh told me that presentation makes a big difference.
The cue of the sealed package itself indicates to people that this is probably safe.
And because food is social, friends. Josh told me that this need to connect can sometimes override our disgust. I knew durian would stink and maybe set off my disgust, but I have a friend who raves about it. So I went into it with an open mind, but I didn't end up liking it. It actually activated my gag reflex.
No more durian for you.
It's your body's way of trying to get rid of something it perceives as bad. So next time you're confronted with a choice of trying a new and maybe unusual food or activity, use your brain to figure out whether it's really unsafe or whether you're just scared to try something different.